we're in the midst of COVID. I had Erica Campbell on Friday, and we were going to, be talking about a little more Jesus and all this other stuff. And I don't even know how it came up. I was like, how are you COVIDing or something? And she was like, so did you get the vaccine? Girl, I ain't taking the vaccine. And I was like, what? And so it hit. And when she started telling, her sister's a naturopath, and she was like, yeah, nah, good immunity. Warren had it and I didn't get it. And I've healed, worked him back to health, and, and his mother. And, so where are you on this, Dr. Sunyatta?
This is a great question. I am very, if we can fix it naturally, we should. Whatever we can do preventatively, we should. And then, sometimes it's popular, sometimes unpopular among colleagues of mine, is I feel like if you're facing unnatural conditions, like some of these are man-made or manipulated conditions, whether it's the pollution that's in the air, whether it's, you name the factors, right? Then you may need other modern solutions for modern problems. And then you can worry about it on the other side. So let me give you an example, right? When people say, well, I will never take antibiotics in my life, and I never take them, and yet they'll come to me and their foot is fallen off or gangrenous. And I'm like, well, look what happened is we need to solve that before Mother Nature takes your foot and the surgeon. And then we can balance your gut bacteria. I feel like you're worried about the wrong stuff right now. And so,
I knew it. I didn't know, but I knew. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Thank you. We are so dogmatic in our ignorance that I'm just like, at some point, I'm like, I'm going to just tap out, go to my own island. Y'all figure it out. Let me know how it's working out for you. But the level of ignorance and the rabbit holes people are going down that just makes no sense around something that you said they ain't never seen before. This coronavirus is new. We don't know whether it came from a Wuhan lab with bats or bats in a wet. We don't know, but they've never seen it before.
And so we have seen coronaviruses before, but they're all different. Even in 1919 and 1918, my grandfather told me he remembers when he was a little boy that people had on masks when he was 4 and 5 and 6 years old. And that was right during that time. So he obviously survived it because he became a grandfather. So we can survive these things. We have to be smart. We need to pace ourselves through the information. So I grew up as a vegetarian. My father was a vegetarian who founded the company that I now run in Harlem. He founded in Harlem. I run it here in DC, but I will say that when I was younger, I was very dogmatic about like vegetarian. And if you're not a vegetarian, I can't date you. And, just all kinds of stuff. And then I grew out of it, understanding you have to meet people where they are. So even in this conversation, Dr. Hunter, you're absolutely right. You have to meet people where they are. And let's just take a step together.
I'm not a doctor. You are. Dr. Sunyatta is here. Dr. Sunyatta, amen. I would not ever, that work that people put in, I haven't done it. That said, this pandemic has wrought havoc on our community, Black people in particular. And I remember early on, I was talking to a doctor who was trained in Cuba, which you have been to as well. You have some ties there as well. And she was saying how they have been pristine in the way in which they handle this. We have not. So those of us who are suffering under an imperfect system with people who are wildly ignorant, how do we keep ourselves safe through natural methods and, medical, taking medicine as well, making sure that we, do everything possible to stay here? What's your advice?
This is a lesson mankind learned, specifically European folks during the bubonic plague, et cetera, is that hygiene is like the most important thing. So whether it's wearing a mask, whether it's washing your hands, whether it's cleaning surfaces, the information changes so much, but why not do it? Who hates dirt? Nobody. Everybody hates dirt. God is like, just clean yourself. It's next to godliness. So that's the first thing that also Cubans have been very good about. Their medical system is amazing. And it's probably because medical education there is free. It's free or extremely low cost. And so people who want to go into medicine there actually do it. It's not a status per se. So you find that people are very interested in preventative medicine there, that keeping your immune system healthy all the time, so that when you do face natural and, sort of crafted things that come up, you're a little more prepared for what's about to go on.
This is fascinating. I don't even know where to start. You seem like you have such a holistic grasp on human health and wellness. And I love the concept that aside from us discussing the vaccine, you ain't mentioned nan drug yet, because we don't have to get into pharmaceuticals, corporate produced, marketed, and sold pharmaceuticals to be healthy people. I mean, frankly, it starts with what we eat. My wife was watching a documentary last night that I just refused to watch because I enjoy seafood. I forgot what it's called. Netflix, see something. And the reality of the matter is that vegetarianism and veganism is probably, holistically from a health perspective, is probably where we need to be. And I can imagine that it would be an extraordinarily difficult adjustment for me. But from you being born into this, what was that like? I mean, did it ever feel weird, essentially? Because it's kind of cool now, but when we were kids, I don't know that it was the norm.
It was not. This is a great question. It was always weird to me growing up because other people made it weird. So if I was in school, yeah, I was like, I'm bringing my lunch. I'm not being critical of anybody else, but I'm bringing my food or whatever's going on. It could be a little bit awkward. What I will say is that it was awkward for me then, but now it's an industry, and yeah, it is my industry too. And, having also raised children who are vegetarian, I have grandchildren who mostly are vegetarian and pescatarian.
Wait, say what now?
That's unbelievable.
I do.
Say what now? Wait, hold
on. You're 30 years old.
Did she say she has grandchildren?
Yes, she did.
You better stop pointing at me. Oh my God.
So my oldest daughter is 36 this year, I think. And
wow.
So here's what I will say, Don, is that it's all a personal choice. And like I said, my younger dogmatic years are way, way, way behind me. I'm an old lady now. And what I will say is that even when you're mentioning, okay, you don't look like you have grandchildren, I really must say that it has everything to do with preventative living.
So tell us your because I'm looking at you when you said grandmother, look, and I'm used to seeing Black people who look good for their quote unquote age. I'm used to that. I'm like, yeah, okay. And then I'm staring at you now because I'm like, where's the grandma? Where is it? I can't see it. So tell us what is your daily regimen? And this is about time put in. This is not something you did last week or a month ago. This seems like a lifestyle.
It is, but it's never too late. Anybody hearing this should, I don't care if you're 102, like the minerals, you just get started where you are. But I start the morning with matcha, with maca together. And that's something we serve at our shops too. And I just find it works for my body, like in some oat milk, and maybe some other protein. And then I just move into our lunch, which is typically like fruit and, other things. And then my dinner, I try to, it doesn't always happen because I'm busy, but eating before sundown is nice. Like trying to eat around 7, at this time of year. I just sleep so much better, and my sleep is pivotal. I am a dragon lady. So anyone who works with me knows I'm like high energy. I'm like, let's do it now. Let's go. And if I get enough sleep, I am more tolerable. That sleep is pivotal.
Now, you said alcohol. No alcohol?
No, I tried that when I was probably 18 or 19. I had, a week where I was drinking and I just felt horrible and so dry. My skin was dry. I'm like, this is going to use up all my moisturizer. So I was like, I can't do it. We can't be ashy. So yeah. I was like, I got to get out of this. And I didn't feel great. And I just think that a lot of us drink socially because we think we're expected to. Meet me for a drink. It's just in our language, and then it's in the zeitgeist in our lexicon. But the truth is that we could have a kombucha, we could have something else. It's time to switch that up. Even the fact that we call it a drink even though there are many kinds of drink, but drink now just means an alcoholic drink. Just goes to show you the industry.
Smoking. You have some CBD on the site as well.
We do have CBD, not to smoke, but it's a tincture that you use. I am probably one of the few, I'm going to get a lot of heat on this, but I'm one of the few Jamaicans on earth that has never smoked marijuana. As I said, my great grandmother was one of my herbal teachers. She was a village healer of her village, and she taught me how to make eye drops out of it, how to make marijuana tea that you drink, how to put it on salves for eczema and psoriasis. But smoking, it was nothing we ever talked about. So it was just really foreign to me that people were just sitting around doing that. It's not a criticism. I just think there are other ways to get the medicine that sometimes we don't explore.
Well, we had Dr. Carl Hart on, who's the author of a book, was it Drugs for the Grown-Ups? And he said smoking is the absolute, he's a heroin user. He said smoking is the absolute worst thing you could do to your body. And I was like, that's a man that uses heroin.
You're just depositing ash right into your lungs. So I don't know what we expect.
Biggest mistakes, black folk, during this COVID-19, it was, really stunningly clear that not only are we frontline workers, but also we have these comorbidities, the high blood pressure, the diabetes, the heart disease, that, and we can go on, but it's diet related. Most of the diabetes we have is type 2, which is preventable and reversible for the most part. High blood pressure, same thing. Heart disease, same thing. So if we're not eating well, and people think it's heredity, but I'm like, no, we eat the way our parents ate. My mom and I were talking. She was like, yeah, this person had diabetes. My grandmother had diabetes. My great grandmother had diabetes. But I said, you don't have diabetes. She said, well, it skips a generation. I was like, I'm never having diabetes. So we had this conversation just last night, and it was like, y'all, they ate the same. That sweet tea, the macaroni and cheese with the 50,000 cheeses. You had the cornbread and the biscuits, and it was a lot of sugar in the diet. And both my grandmothers drank, and so you're going to get diabetes because of the diet. Sugar. How do we get us to be conditioned, like you said, to not go out for drinks, but go out for tea, or go out for matcha, go out for kombucha?
That is a great question. And that's why we created what we did at Calabash. Was, in my mind, we needed a sexy space. We needed to be the people's pharmacy. Like, you felt like you're coming in a bar, you're hanging out. And so it's the place a lot of people have their first dates, last dates. We get a lot of last dates. And so people take a little nervous system tonic and get their courage together. Like, this is not working out, or whatever, but the idea that environment should be created, that the alcohol industry shouldn't have the monopoly on places you want to hang out. And so that was one of the reasons we did what we did. The same thing is true for soul food. I mean, what is more delicious than that? It's amazing. And there's an opportunity for us to make things the same as our parents and grandparents did. We're just going to use some substitutions. Look, our greater grandparents, many of them were working forcible labor in an agribusiness, right? These were plantocracies, plantations, et cetera. They had so much physical work, it almost balanced out a lot of that food, because they used so many calories to forcibly do that work on plantations. So it's different. We live a sedentary lifestyle. We sitting right now or standing around. It's just not the same. We cannot eat that level of starch anymore.
You have Harriet's gun and Garvey's ghost. I'm just going to put that out there. So tell me what's in the matcha. Tell me what's in your matcha that you use that you put that first on your system. Yeah. What is it about the matcha and the maca?
Yeah.
Matcha, and what's the difference?
That's a great question. Matcha is a finely stone ground green tea. And the reason I like matcha is because you're getting the fiber too. So instead of steeping your green tea and throwing the leaves out, you're eating the leaves because it's ground, right? So you get a lot of fiber, it keeps you regular, it helps clear the system, which clears the skin.
Wait, hold on. Let me add that to my cart. Hold on. Go ahead. Continue.
And maca is a Peruvian superfood. It's a root that is powdered and ground. And so just honestly, I'm a person who has very little time. So the fact that I can throw a teaspoon of that in a cup and put 3 ounces of hot water and then a little oat milk slasher on ramen on top, I go because I'm that person on the go. So I need something, even though I love the ritual of tea, that's something I reserve for hours I'm not working, like on the weekend or whatever I'm doing, you know?
So in your downtime, what tea do you enjoy?
My last good nerve.
Oh, where is that?
Because
What is in that?
my family. My last good nerve is that tea that helps restore the nervous system. There's a difference between sleep and nerve restoration. And so during the daytime is when I restore my nervous system so that my sleep at night is uninterrupted. I need that uninterrupted, I don't like that waking up at 1, 2, or 3 in the morning and you're looking at the time and you're like, why am I awake? So if I keep my nervous system mellow during the day, then my sleep is better. So my last good nerve is my number one choice.
Do you drink that? Because I know if I drink after 8 o'clock, I am up to go to the bathroom. Like I'll drink water and I'm like, what time? Nope, I got to drink all my water before 7.
You are absolutely right. My water cutoff is 7.
Okay, I'm doing something good. But your last good nerve, are you sipping that? You got your matcha and your maca in the morning. When do you cut off sipping on your last good nerve?
That's a great question. I typically have that around 5 or 6 so that my re-entry into my house is smooth for everybody. I'm off of Dragon Lady and I'm this is mommy, this is whatever I need to do right then because I have to land. You know what I mean? Like I'm flying high and then I gotta land.
I love it.
I love it. Come in hot.
Let's take some calls, 866-801-8255, because I'm going to have you back on to tell your backstory. And I am fascinated with this witchery, but I'm going to get into that. But I think, that's a larger, to me, a spiritual conversation that we have to have, and we can't do it in 10 minutes. So let's go to Angel in Detroit. We'll get questions in and I have more questions about your tea. Hey, Angel, welcome. You're on with Dr. Sunyatta. Hey.
Perfect. Hi, Miss Karen. I'm a big fan, and thank you for having Dr. Is it Amen? I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly.
Amen. Yeah.
Yes, Amen. I'm sorry. But thank you guys for sharing some great information. But I just have a quick question. My mom just started making like the sea moss mix with, I think, ginger and turmeric. But my husband was telling me that there was like some carrageenan issues with the sea moss. So I just wanted to pick your brain for some thoughts on that, because I don't go to the doctor for another 6 weeks to, ask my, health professional. So what are your thoughts on the dangers of carrageenan in the sea moss, or do you think that's a non-factor?
That's a great question. I appreciate that. I think that it's a non-factor in most cases. And I love to see women getting iodine in the ways that they need to, because our thyroids often suffer, mostly because we are flying high, like I said, and that high adrenal drive, that high fire often throws the other glands in our system. It's like a biofeedback. And especially for women, the thyroid gets affected. And if you think about your aunties and other people, you're like, their thyroid kind of had a problem. So I don't think that's necessarily a problem, what you were mentioning. What I do think is an issue is where it's farmed. How it's harvested and where it's farmed. And that's super important because our waterways are polluted in lots of areas, number one. Number two is anytime something's the hot new joint, like sea moss or matcha or whatever, it's over farmed in an area. And that can be dangerous because you're not really getting the nutrient that you think you are, or you're getting stuff that is not pure. So I really appreciate your question.
Where do you get your tea?
Well, our sea moss is actually the seaweed moss. Next time I come, I'll show you. It's scary looking in a way, but it's the actual seaweed, and our divers dive for it. I have pictures of these guys, they go down and dive.
You have your own divers at Calabash Tea?
We do, because we're Jamaican, so we know them. And that way we're able to put the money directly in their hands. Direct trade is where it's at to reach back to our communities.
Okay. You said earlier when we were talking about vaccines and medicine, you said, do what you need to do to deal with the unnatural thing that we're dealing with, and then we'll fix it on the other end. Yeah. So if all of the people we're telling them get the vaccine because we need to be able to protect ourselves from dying. But there are some people who are afraid of the after effects, the side effects of the vaccine. Are there things we can do after we've been vaccinated to balance our system and to make sure that we have a good experience?
I definitely think so. Here, I mean, just like you said, and we were talking about we have to survive. That's what we have to do. And I mentioned my grandfather remembering when he was a child that there was a flu and people were wearing masks. He survived it because the people in his family were wearing masks. So what we have to think about is, what can we do to survive, to be able to be the legends that people talk about later? And the most straightforward thing is, if it's about taking a vaccine, take it. And then later you can work out things like inflammation, which is a killer. The inflammation in your system is the thing that will do you the most harm, 9 out of 10. I see people who are afraid to take vaccines eating stuff that I don't think is actually food. I mean, if they watch these documentaries like Food Inc. and Forks Over Knives Over Forks, Forks Over Knives and all this stuff, you see that these industries don't care about you. So we can't talk about vaccines and then go eat KFC or talk about, or whatever it is, right?
Whatever, fried chicken, or
yeah.
right. That we don't want you getting in
Crack
trouble
Donald's,
with
whatever.
Right.
Like, you can't do, it's an inconsistent message. So I have been vaccinated. Everybody in my family behind that door has been vaccinated. And I care about the people that I deal with in my community above all else. And so I am ready to be on the front lines of that. And I deal with so many people. We could see up to 300 people in our shop a day. I have to be ready to be able to see them and also keep them in my highest regards in terms of making sure I'm safe to be in touch with them.